Good morning, I am Pete, also known as Risk for Rewards. Currently just under 10,000 followers on Twitter. Most people are just here to follow my Cheltenham anti-post selections and follow the blog the whole way there. The blog is live, you can find that already on the profile posted. But today we're here to talk about Ascot Champions Day. But first, a quick intro and the fact that I'm going to be doing a bit more YouTube this year, mainly because of the fact that I'm on a course up until Christmas. So I'm going to be having weekends off. On the weekends, I'm looking to put a video up, probably around 5 to 10 minutes maximum, reviewing the action from the weekend and any anti-post bets that I have placed. Normally I wouldn't get them out till Wednesday or Thursday next week, which is what I'll get them written up and they'll go on Twitter. But if you want the early news, then you're going to have to subscribe because they'll go on YouTube because it's quicker to do a video there and then at the time. This is so that we beat all the podcasts that come out on Monday that will probably be putting up similar selections or may have seen the same things. Anyway, before further ado, straight on to today's action. We're obviously at Champions Day. Champions Day is brilliant racing all round, but you have to remember it is the end of the season. So this is like the equivalent of betting on Aintree and Punchestown of the jumps. So some of these horses will have been aimed for it all year, some may be overcooked, and some will just be there to be primed for today. So we'll start straight off with the first race, the Long Distance Cup. And of course, we've got last year's winner, Truishan, who's looking to go to be the first horse to win 3 races back-to-back at Champions Day. For me, as stated in the blog, there's just something about him that is just saying no to me this year. The price looks too good. If he was even money, I'd be more concerned. He's currently looking at around 9 to 4. I just think he just doesn't look the same horse since he won the Northumberland Plate. I've stated on the blog that he doesn't look like he was letting himself down at York. He didn't look like he wanted to go through his action. I don't know if Alan King was 100% correct in the fact that he was going on and on about the soft ground. He ran him too firm, and now he doesn't like going through that pain barrier. Because when asked a question at York, he really should have been going past Coltrane. He's also been very buzzy at the start of races, and I think this has cost him at the end. He seems to be quite lit up and quite keen when Holly's trying to get him filled into where she wants to put him in the race. That'll be key today, but luckily for Holly, she's got her husband, Tom Marquand, on Quickthorn. So chances are he's going to go off and he's going to make it a pace, which will suit Truishan better. But Holly's going to need to have him more prominent to feature, in my opinion. The opposite scale of this game is the £9 receiver of Eldar Eldarov, who did us a favour in the St. Ledger, winning at 10 to 1. He's back today, he gets the weight, he likes the ground, he's very versatile, he stays on late, and he's 1 for 1 at Ascot. For me, he's a pretty standout selection from the bunch. I like Waterville also because of the very similar reasons. He's getting the £9 allowance, but I do think his inexperience may cost him slightly today, and that O'Brien's just given him a run out over here so that he can gain the experience for further chances down the line with stuff like the Long Distance Cups next year. So, but I wouldn't put off either of those two. Then the third one to mention, I said I'm going to be putting a few bigger price up, is Quickthorn. Quickthorn, if he gets his quick and easy lead, he was mighty impressive when putting up a 120 before his French run last time out. And he absolutely put Coltrane to the sword, winning by over 10 lengths against him. If he's to repeat that, then he could take some stopping, but he would need to get his easy lead. But he's a double figure price and he could run into places anyway, because the chances are of Waterville, Truishan and Eldar Eldarov all running a race is, I think, in my opinion, below likely, which means that one of them's going to give and the place will be up for grabs for Quickthorn, or he could steal a win. For me, it's Eldar Eldarov all the way, but if you were looking at the other two, it's the two that I've mentioned. Next up, we've got the Sprint, very competitive event, and I was keen on the 2 Godolphin horses at the start of the week, Naval Crown and Creative Force. The downside is they've both been drawn out wide, 13 and 18. It's not wide, obviously, in 13, but it's wider than they would have hoped. And the issue is with that is that if they go low draw bias, which is more than likely, and come up that rail, then they're going to have to come all the way across to get involved. It does mean that they should have a free passage coming down the outside, and I'm not sure how much it will hinder Creative Force. I think he does have still have his chance. Naval Crown, I'm a little bit more concerned, especially as he's had a busier year. This will be his 8th run. But for me, the star of the season, just for consistency and for his record at Ascot, is Rohan. He's got a 4 for 5 record at Ascot. The downside is he's never won a Group 1. He's always come up slightly short. So he may well come up again here today. But the problem is none of these horses are superstars. You're not looking at the superstars of the planet. You're looking at very moderate sprinters. So you could run this race 10 times. There might be 10 different winners. So I'm happy with Rohan because he's drifting. He's now close to 7-1. You can play him each way, and I'd be disappointed if he's not in the first 5. So Rohan would be one of my selections. I'm sticking with Naval Crown, just because Godolphin needs to chase that, and there's been such little between him and stablemate Creative Force, due to the fact that they've met in the Jersey. There was 2 lengths between them. They met this year, and Naval Crown got the better of him by a head, and he stayed on all the way to the line. Naval Crown might well come up that near side rail again, and if he does, he may be running solo, but if he handles the ground and he's running on his own, then so be it. He's I think by the time the race kicks off, he's probably going to be closer to 20-1. And so he's a fair bet to try for me. There's a lot of money and a lot of talk for Art Power, and I can totally see it under the better draw. But I'm happy to roll the dice for the 1 that I know is consistent and 2 that I think is overpriced. On to fillies and mares. Emily Upjohn, obviously the star of the season at the start, when looking like she was going to be the take-all before her. She was going to be the next big thing. She was then beaten in the Oaks. People were like, it's a brilliant run, she'll come on for it, but she never really did. She was awful on the King George. She was so keen, she was lit up. It was like a competition between her and, can't think off the top of my head, the other horse who also flopped, who was the Westover. And both of them two ran an awful race. So will she be better here in the first time hood? The strike rate of the yard is around 50% for first time hoods, so she could well be, but she's one for me to take on. I am disappointed Frankie's gone that way, because I like Mimikoyu, who Frankie rode last time out, and she looked more like the up and coming horse to me. She had the first time hood on, and she put Ashada to the sword. She was getting all the weight, she was getting £10 that day, but 3 out, they were both the only 2 horses still on the bridle. And then coming to 2 out, she was off the bridle first, and Ashada was still travelling, but she just found plenty for pressure. So I'm more than happy to roll the dice. Rob Havlin's got his Group 1 in the bag now, so another Group 1 could be made for him. He's not going to have the pressure the same way today. And then the other selection is Ashada, who just continues to drift, and is now close to 14-1. Ashada won the race last year, but she was getting £6 from her elders last year. This year she doesn't get the weight allowance, and obviously has to give that weight away. This could be the difference, but it does look, if you look all the way through, it does look like she's been laid out for this. She wasn't given a hard time when beaten by Mimikyu. We know she handles the ground. She's a strong traveller. She'll enjoy a bit of the soft ground, and it's very similar conditions to last year. So it's hard to not see her run a big race. And at 14-1, she's an each way play now. The other one that I would definitely recommend to keep an eye on is the French Raider, Sweet Lady. She again is another one who's 11 or 12-1, but her form ties in with all the ARC credentials. I don't think it was the best ARC in behind Alpinista, but it's still rock solid French form. And this race is, I think there's about something like £5 separating all the top 10 in the betting. So there's very little between them. And with fillies and mares, it's all about catching them on that one day. And this could be her one day. So I wouldn't write her off if you've got a free bet or something like that and you want to chuck it on. I'd chuck that on one. But Mimikyu and Ashada, despite the drift for me. On to the QE2. The QE2 is a massive talking point this week, the same as the long distance cup. There's a lot of people who are with Trueshan against Inspiral, a lot that are against both, for example. And as predicted, Inspiral is drifting, and she's now at 6-4. That's probably a more realistic price. If she repeats her Royal Ascot form, combined with the £3 weight allowance she's getting, I think she's very, very difficult to beat. Will she repeat that? We don't know. The layoff is a slight concern, but Gosden did come out and say that she needs time between her races. So this has obviously been the plan, and they've set her up for it. I think the ground will be fine. I don't think that'll be an issue. She clearly enjoyed Ascot when winning at Royal Ascot. And after she won that race, they were talking about her putting up to Baid, and she could be the only horse to do it and all this sort of thing. And now everyone's saying, oh no, well, she's no good and all this. And all she's done since then, yes, she flopped at Newmarket, but she then won the Jack Lamarwa, same race Palace Pier won. So it's hard to see how you can knock her. And the fielding behind is, bar Modern Games, is a bit of a muchness. Out of the last 8 out of 12 winners, they've been rated 119 or higher. And of these horses, the only ones that are in that bracket is Inspiral, Modern Games. Modern Games, to me, this looks like an afterthought because of the fact that he was over in Canada winning the Woodbine. And then, obviously, he's come back over here because they need to defend the title against William Haggis. And then, obviously, he's going to have Breeders' Cup as the option. It's very hard to get a good, solid read on his form because a lot of his ratings have been achieved abroad. So he could easily be as good as Inspiral or even better because there's only £2 or £3 between them. but it's just hard to tell until the day. But I'm not sure for him on the ground. So behind that, for me, anything could win. But for as a favourites chance go, I think she'll probably be 6-4 to 2-1, and I think that's more than fair to roll the dice. Just because she's a short price does not mean that she's a stronger bet than any of the others. I'd actually say probably quite the opposite. She's just another bet today. She's not my nap. She's not something you'd steam in on. But I do think she's got a better chance than the other horses, as the market implies. Keep it short and sweet in the 4 o'clock. Bide, Superstar. The price isn't great and it just continues to get shorter. Everything else has drifted today, but Baid's getting shorter. This is a much harder task than York when he won at 4-9 against Mishrif. But they just don't care. People are just backing him. He's going in the ACCAs, he's going in every bet, and he's now 2-9 to 1-5. So if you really want to back him, I think you wait until he bets in play. He's coming out of stall 1, so as soon as they jump off, he's going to be probably pinned to a rail, or he's going to be stuck out wide, or he's going to be stuck somewhere, because unless Jim Crowley does like a Franco on the 2,000 guineas and bolts out that front door, which I can't see happening, he's going to be hostage to fortune to begin with. So he's going to probably be pinned in, one behind him, one outside and one in front. So he will need to get that room, but that is a long Ascot straight. And if he gets the afterburners going, he'll be gone. But he does need to be wary of that. But Crowley just does not seem phased. He just knows he's a superstar. Huge player for me at double figure price again is Bay Bridge. Bay Bridge is 10 to 1 currently, and I'd be happy to roll that each way if you really wanted to bet in the race, or you can go 11 to 4 without the favourite. I really liked the horse, but it really let me down at Royal Ascot and then let me down again at Sandown, but was so impressive first out at Sandown. I think it wanted soft to the ground and it needs this trip, and I think today will be the day that you'll see a much better Bay Bridge. There's a lot of vibes coming from the yard from the start of the season about how good this horse was, and the fact it went off favourite for the Eclipse against horses like Verdani and Mishrif just shows how high the regard is. So you just wouldn't want Baid to be in a pocket and Bay Bridge kicking off the front. But at the same time, this race has massive blowout potential because Adayar's only had 1 run and could blow out completely. Bay Bridge obviously is blown out, in my opinion. The last 2 runs have been very below average. And you look behind that and you think, well, none of the rest are going to compete, so you could just see a cracksman-like performance where Baid just streaks the whole field. But at the same time, either of those two, Adayar and Bay Bridge, are top-class horses, so they will push him if they're on their game today. Then finally, the handicap. The handicap I had down to 4, so I put up Migration. I like the layoff. The stats go against it completely, but it means it's only had 1 run. William Buick takes over in the saddle. Munizia likes to target races. Ran a massive race when finishing second to the Godolphin horse. Let me just find out what horse that was, because it wasn't Modern Games, but it was one very similar. Modern News. Finished second to Modern News, who's now rated much higher. So technically has some weight in hand. Handles soft ground, and we know that's the target. So I think this race is pretty weak. The downside is Migration's been drawn 23, so done absolutely no favours. If, like the sprint, they come up the near side, but you won't know that till it happens. Blue for You was the obvious one. Very hard luck in running and looks like it very progressive. Wouldn't put anyone off that horse. Jason Watson Danny Tudhope in the saddle again. But the horse just seems to, it's such a strong traveller, but they seem to find plenty of trouble in running. Would not be surprised whatsoever if that horse was to win, though. And the other one I flagged up was Barashikova at over 10 to 1. She was 11 to 1, I think, at the time. I hadn't backed that myself, and it's now been put up by Pricewise, so I probably won't back that myself. And it was obvious. Haggis has got a brilliant record, 4 runners, 2 winners and a place in the race. He's got a great, but she just there's something about her. I was lucky enough to be on her at Epsom when she won, but then I also followed her in at Ascot, but she was sent off joint favourite to beat Saffron Beach, who's obviously a multiple Group 1 winner. So they're obviously highly thought of, but since then she's ran below par, up to £9 lower than that win. They say she wants soft ground, so she'll get that here. She is well handicapped, clearly, because obviously she hasn't gone up. She's back on that same winning mark. So everything's in her favour, but my concern is if she runs like she did at Ascot, she'll be off the bridle miles for the rest of these. I'm not sure a straight track, she looks like a filly who gets bored. So I'm not sure a straight track will suit her. And it was enough to put me off that now she's like 13 to 2. If she was double figures still, then I'd enjoy that, but that's one for the shortlist. And then finally, my 4th selection on the list for this one was Magical Morning under Benoit Lasayette. and that is what you call a drifter. Now going towards 33 to 40s. I was hoping that it would be over 10 to 1, which it clearly is. But ran in this race last year, is coming here currently £1 lower, but she's got the claim, so he's got the claim, so he's got £3 lower, so technically £4 well in. Only has ran one good race this year, and that was at Doncaster, getting an RPR of 115. But it was the same last year. Only ran one good race last year, and then came here and then finished third. So it could be exactly the same. They might have won that race, then got the handicap mark down, and then come here for a one big run. That obviously you're taking a flyer, and that is you just going on a hunch, and that's all it is. I can't say, oh, that's my strongest bet of the day, but at the end of the day, it's 33 to 1. You're not losing a lot. So for me in the finale, that obviously is, sorry, 2 seconds. In the finale, Blue for You on the short list, but the two I've backed is Migration and Magical Morning, and then I'd keep an eye on Barashikova. Like I said, this race throws up plenty of short price horses, like the likes of last year. They had the Aldari for William Haggis, got backed all the way into 7 to 2. Lord Glitters, Nord for Jessica Harrington, got back from 11s into 13 to 2, sent off and won. So if you see a lot of money, like if Barashikova got all the way back into 7 to 2, I'm not telling you to chase short price horses all day, but it is very noteworthy. They seem to get the money right once they know the bias and the conditions. I don't think it's a short price throw a load of multis in together today, but I've gone for, if you want for like a place accumulator or a bit of each way, I've gone for Rohan in the 2 o'clock, currently 13 to 2, Bay Bridge at 10 to 1 in the for the 4 o'clock, and Mimikyu 240. You could do all of those in just like an each way multiple. But as I said, there's so much blowout potential throughout today that could happen. And the other one with the Bay Bridge is you can back him without Baid, and he's still 11 to 4. And you're basically having a match race with the Godolphin horse, hoping that he runs his race, which I think he will. So yeah, my probably my strongest selection of today would probably be Eldar Eldarov. But would I be surprised Trueshan runs his race and wins? No, but at the same time, I think he's got enough to prove. So good luck today, and I'll be back following for the National Hunt season and all the Cheltenham selections. Good luck.